All right, so in scientific terms, event horizon is pretty much the parameter outside of a black hole. It's pretty much once you are trapped into the event horizon, it's the beginning process of the never ending. You're eventually going to get sucked into a black hole because mass, as we understand, gravity is mass pushing you forward. We're sitting in our chair because mass is pushing us down. And then in event horizon, once you get trapped in the event horizon, there's no way. It's the beginning process of going into doom. There's no escape out of it, and that's where time and everything gets warped. That's a scientific kind of notation. That's my unscientific notation of what event horizon is, and that's why we get the joke that what happens in event horizon stays in event horizon.
That's fair. See, and as a Gator or Stargate fan, you could have a drinking game around watching that show, and every time they say the event horizon, referring to the space in front of the Stargate wormhole where you basically, again, gravity shifts. You're not down anymore, you're in. So you could have a drink game for that. I wouldn't advise it because you'd be dead by episode 3. But today we're going to talk about a film that has been slashed to ribbons and has long been rumored to have an original cut, which has now been confirmed to have been lost or destroyed.
Right.
So we can only talk about what could have been and never actually see it. Event Horizon. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. Reach us that way. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals. Eventually, like this movie's 1997, I think in a couple weeks, Kyle and I are going to review our top 10 fleshed out films of 1997.
Yeah, I'm doing a heavy 97 rewatch in preparation for that. So join Patreon now so you can get that, man, because that's going to be a heavy video.
And I say this is probably one of the most sensational, and I worked the video store when this came out. This one was, we got the poster and the movie when it came out, and I was like, what in the world is this? It is one of those that I think the reaction at the time when it came out was, what in the world is this? And then when you watch the movie, you're like, what in the world is this? Then you realize it's not in the world. So what is going on with Event Horizon?
Yeah, so in the year 2047, a team of astronauts have discovered the long-lost ship Event Horizon, which went missing 7 years prior. As they search the ship for survivors and answers, they get more than they bargained for as they learn the ship's real purpose and the hell that it has brought forth.
Okay, like I said, this is 1997, and I said that the two rival horror films at the time was Cube. We already talked about Cube, and this movie. I think people kind of put Starship Troopers as a horror movie. I put it almost as a comedy parody.
Yeah.
Not really a horror movie, but I think these are Cube and Event Horizon are very similar contexts of closed environments. A very space agey, and this one definitely, I love it. It's almost like Hellraiser in outer space before we got Hellraiser in outer space.
Yeah, which is a good Hellraiser movie. But yeah, it was pitched as Philip Eisner, who wrote the screenplay, has recently did movies like Sweet Girl. He wrote the screenplay for The Mutant Chronicles.
We were doing this before recording. I think it had a different title for the script.
Yeah, comment below if you can find it, because we couldn't find it. But he pitched it as The Shining in space, and I see that in a way, but I also really see... I mean, it's hard not to see Hellraiser in space. I believe Clive Barker was consulted with, kind of like ideas and designs and kind of crafting the visual look of everything. Yeah. So you can't get away from the Hellraiser comparisons, especially because Pinhead went to space later on.
Right, yeah.
It's really hard to get past it. But, yeah, very, very close comparisons.
But you make a ship that looks already foreboding to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just really eerie. This is Sam Neill going back to horror movies after like Jurassic Park, and he did a couple of other soft romantic films. And this is going back because remember he did movies like In the Mouth of Madness. He started Dead Calm. So his
Possession.
So he started his career with horror movies, and this was kind of refreshing because we realized when we were in college, it's like, oh, Sam Neill's going back to horror movies. This is great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird that he became so famous for Jurassic Park and a number of other films. Hunt for the Wilder People, an episode we did previously as well. He became so famous for those kinds of characters, those kinds of roles. He probably has 50% of his career devoted to horror. Because not just the movies we talked about, like he was in The Omen 3. He was Damien as an adult in The Omen 3.
Right? Yeah, before Dead Calm.
And then he would return to things like Daybreakers, where he was in, like as a vampire, and working with, John Carpenter 2 or 3 times, and it's just like he's had such a realm of horror to him that I didn't know that growing up, because I watched everything that he'd done that wasn't horror, and then got hit with this like onslaught of like, wait, he's into this stuff. And it's really, really special because he just has a love for genre stuff. He can fight dinosaurs and he can go to hell, like, and he does it well.
This is Lawrence Fishburne too. This is 2 years before The Matrix, and this is kind of really, I don't know, I wouldn't say his career was really sinking or his stock was really, but he really wasn't doing anything catapulting his career. And I think this might be his first horror movie he ever done.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Okay, Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Good catch. But I think this is one of those that actually helped him get into The Matrix, helped him be part of a franchise. And I think that because his career was rather sinking in the mid-'90s. I mean, obviously he did Boys in the Hood and stuff like that. But this is another one that, like Sam Neill in this movie, all of a sudden, hey, they're back again. Almost.
Yeah, that's true. Fishburne as a lead, as the
almost the conscience of this film.
Well,
right?
What's fun about him is that he can play bad and he can play good with subtle notches where you're kind of trying to search him out and figure out if we should trust him, if we shouldn't. And the film, I think, kind of placates that. Paul W.S. Anderson, who directed it, gives us the focus on Miller, on our ship's captain, and it kind of asks us, like, should we trust him or should we not? And they ask us that so much that we forget, should we trust Sam Neill's character, Weir, or not? Like, I was totally enthralled with, should I trust Miller? And I was not paying attention at all to Sam Neill and what was going on.
It's almost that it's weird to link this movie, but it's almost like Unforgiven, where you're like, is William Money going to be the bad guy? Then you realize, wait a minute, it's Gene Hackman. Yeah, and it's almost like that slight shift.
It's the red herring.
Yeah,
like, and it's not so much we're looking for we're trying to find out who we shouldn't trust, and we're not paying attention to the real concern, which is great because that's kind of what this movie is. They go in and they're searching for answers. They're searching for, like, what happened to this ship, and the whole while they're not paying attention to what's happening around them.
Never. And that's how they get in danger, right? You're not minding your surroundings, as they say in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
So and another one, Kathleen Quinlan.
Yeah.
Who's in this movie? I think she could do a little bit. They don't give enough for her.
Yeah, there was more scenes that involved her flashbacks with her child that were cut. That's the problem with these movies. And anything we talk about that's flawed about it, we can point to a reason. Because I do believe that this film is a much better film that we didn't see than it is. Because Quinlan has a lot more scenes with her child. Sam Neill had more scenes with his wife. There's so much more to this movie that is missing. I mean, I think the final runtime was 96 minutes, but the first cut ran about 130. And it was hit with an NC-17 rating.
And we realized we can never retrieve that back.
Yeah, so that's the most frustrating thing is I would love to see the original screenplay. They've done this before, comic bookized. They did that with the original version of Alien 3. I'd love to see a comic book adaptation.
Well, I think if your research shows that, the original script, Sam Neill's not the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's
you can tell there's a little bit of a difference in his hair, like they had done some reshoots or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, some things have changed. Basically, the whole story behind that. So the film was planned for a later on 1997 release, but Titanic was not going to be done in time and had to get pushed. And so the studio wanted to throw another movie in there. And the thing is, now let's be clear. They told Paul W.S. Anderson, we want to put it in this point. That gave him 6 weeks to finish the movie when he needed, I think it was like 2 to 3 more months after that.
Yeah.
And he said yes. So, I mean, like, he regrets that. He says it was a bad call, but he was a yes man at that point in his career. And it's frustrating because, like, we look at it, hindsight 2020. He shouldn't have said yes, but he did. And because of that, things had to get cut. It was taken away from him as well later on in the editing process, slashed to ribbons. A lot of money spent on things we'll never get to see. So.
And still people enjoy it. I still enjoyed the movie.
I enjoyed it more the second viewing. I watched this back in high school, and I did not care for it. And this is perfect for me. So well, it's more disappointing.
I think you understand with all the cutting and editing process. In the beginning of the movie, it looks like it wanted to be a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of in the beginning, it's a slow burn of even coming to the ship and how massive it is and the scale and scope. And then it goes high octane. You can understand. I think it was supposed to take its time.
Yeah, which is interesting because Paul W.S. Anderson's not a director known for taking his time.
Oh, Resident Evil's not. Yeah,
every Resident Evil movie is.
Yeah, she just wakes up in the shower and there we go. Right.
Yeah. So it's curious, and I think that's maybe what I was missing because I watched it, of course, when I was younger. We didn't have the information on the lost footage. It wasn't really talked about as much. So I viewed it as just a movie that people told me I'd really like. And I really didn't. But looking at it now and kind of seeing the movie that we got instead of the movie I wanted does help the overall experience. It's still a deeply flawed movie, but it's very entertaining. You can see hints of greatness. When you walk into that room with the spinning ball, you can see that there's 9 levels. There's 9 levels, the 9 levels of hell. built around that. And you can see there's an attention to detail that's really grand, and it's just it's one of those movies that you watch it, you like it, but you're just sad
because there's so many things missing that you almost have to fill the blanks in. Because Sam Neill's character built the ship, and he explains how well he uses gravity. It creates its own gravity to suck into different dimensions, and you almost want that Lawrence Fishburne to say, "Well, you could have built it, but you never said should I build it." Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's almost like you should say that. But you had to go a little bit extra gory. I understand because the movie's taking it slow, but it looks the whole set looks like it's not even. It looks like hellish.
Yeah.
Even the spaceship's like, why does it look that way? It looks like, why would you get in there?
That's the great thing. Production design was done by Joseph Bennett, who did Deep Blue Sea, did Hardware. So he's done some other films in the late 90s that hit in a particular kind of visual aesthetic. And there's a lot of hellish-looking things that are just kind of in the everyday of the ship. Just ways in which there are flames depicted on the walls that aren't really there, but they have the slight imagery of flame.
The long corridors.
Yeah. And just the way that the whole thing is set, built as a set, when you watch it looking for hell, you find hell.
Right, yeah. My favorite scene is when his wife comes back, Sam Neill's character. And she's, and they have that very, almost lime green set. It takes out, it's very lit very well, but it's still creepy. Mm-hmm. All right, and then he wants her to come back, but he doesn't, right? He's like, oh, please don't do it.
Yeah.
Which is almost like he wants to, but he doesn't want to.
I really appreciate the set transitions that are used for those flashback scenes where people are basically walking off the ship into a flashback. I love when a filmmaker can pull that off because it's not something easy to do. It was done very well in 1408, the ghost story, where he's stuck in a hotel room and he keeps opening doors and seeing flashbacks of his daughter dying, which is such an awful thing to see. That moment of you're leaving one set because the character's mind isn't moving, and we're just kind of following them through that. And I think that's really, really cool, and it's done well. And it is done well here.
Well, you understand, I think in the movie, the script, they want to flesh out that he bait this ship because he's grieving for his wife who committed suicide. Not the cleanest suicide ever, but he wants to see her again and figure out some way to go. And he used an excuse of, we just advanced scientifically that we could do this, right?
Yeah.
So he built this ship.
Wanted to go get her somehow. It's basically the sci-fi horror version of What Dreams May Come.
Exactly.
We're going to go get my wife out of hell. Yeah. And what happens there. There's influences from The Haunting, which I think I can see in there because we don't actually see
I can see in this
the ghost.
It's a ship. Yeah.
There's influences of The Shining where people are going crazy. There's influences of Hellraiser. And I think,
where the space is contaminated.
Exactly. Yeah, the space around you is infecting you. I would have liked to have seen the hell sequences that were cut. I mean, you hear the descriptions of things where they hired pornographic actors to participate in a blood orgy, and it's I'm one of those guys. I love a good set of gore, so yeah, sure, I'd love to see that.
Let's go full Clive Barker, man. Yeah, because even this it's a skin suit Sam Neill's wearing.
Yeah,
and it's slashed up, but it's
it's almost like Frankenstein, where it's we tore him to pieces and put him back together again. It's so many things about it that I just think, wow, that's really cool. I just want it to cross that, And I keep thinking back to the Alien 3 of it all because Alien 3, of course, their footage from the original work print of that film was heavily damaged. They still put together a cut of it with the warning at the front that some scenes are not going to look as good. And I'm okay, that's fine with me, but I just want to see even if the footage is grainy as hell, just put it back together in a work print. I want to see what it looks like,
And of course, I just like the formula because I've seen a lot of, when I was 20 when this came out, so I've already seen Outland, I've already seen Solaris, I've already seen a lot of other sci-fi horror movies, and I think you when you see those, you see a lot of the influences where this came from, and you're like, oh right, I recognize some of this stuff, and you realize that the spaceship's not going to take you to a good place. Yep. In fact, the spaceship itself is hell as well, and then we're going to go to a different location. So it's almost like you're condemned even to participate.
Yeah,
and I think the characters recognize that they're condemned even to do this.
Yeah,
it's almost like Alien.
There should have been a sign above it that said, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter."
Because
the moment you get there, it's a less hopeful abyss. Basically,
even getting in the ship, there's an injury. Getting into the ship, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it's overall, I did really find the film to be fantastically well put together. It's one of those movies that knowing that it was destroyed, you can appreciate it more for what they accomplished still.
I'm appreciating for how short of a time they did, how the set looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And even they chopped up the script to pieces, and it's been fried, baked, rebaked, fried, rebaked. Mm-hmm. How the script even works still. Yeah.
Yeah, well, not only that, too, when you think about Paul W.S. Anderson's choices he turned down X-Men to do this. He turned down the X-Files movie. He turned down Alien 4 so that he could do something that was a little bit more his, something that wasn't as reliant on a preconceived idea. He had a lot of other opportunities and put himself fully into this movie. And it's interesting because most of the time he writes and directs his own stuff. So him taking and adapting something, I think that's what makes it so much more special, is because I don't think he's inherently a bad director. I think that he has some real big flaws in his screenwriting. Because when you look at the movies that he has written, even the ones he did direct, those things
I don't
are
think
messy.
Story is so much a core to what he cares about.
But if he can take something that was written by someone else, I think he can turn it into something special.
I don't think, Resident Evil works as a script. I don't think the dialogue's all throwaway, but it's interesting to watch. And of course, if it starts, they're like, all right, let's go with it.
Yeah. And we've got, the script that was, Phil Beisner said he based ideas from the script on Warhammer 40,000, which is like there's a whole like thing in that game where it's the warp of like you can go through something into like this creepy monstrous dimension. It's got more Doom elements than either of the Doom movies.
I do like that he ruins his eyes and his wife's eyes are ruined. It's almost like you have to go blind to see or enjoy torture. So there's some snippets of a fantastic horror script to it, but I think it's a cult classic. There's people who still love this movie, and I held on for the poster for as long as I could, and eventually just kind of deteriorated, because it's one of those, like, if you have this poster, like, oh yeah.
It's a card. It's a card for a club, basically. As a horror fan, it's something that you should check out because it's very messy, but there's so much promise to it, and that's why I'm very excited about the news I was hearing that Adam Wingard, horror director, is adapting this film as a series, and it's like, I think if you took another crack at the idea and at the story that's there and going back to the original story and not the slash story, I think you could find something good. I'm not necessarily meaning a series, but just this is a movie where I think a remake of some sort or some sort of continuation is a perfect idea. I don't think remaking the great movies is a good idea because you're always going to compare.
I think you need a really accomplished director. Somebody has a name that you recognize that can redo this, or maybe go like it came back again.
Yeah, like a continuation or a remake. This is one where I'm not really picky on it because I do think this is the perfect kind of movie to hit again because it's a cult classic. It has name recognition. I think even people that have never seen the movie know the name Event Horizon. It's always circulating in genre. You could hit this thing again, try something else with it, and have a studio behind you that's not going to destroy you to save Titanic, and you could have something special.
I think why people like me and a lot of other people that were in their teenagers or in their 20s when this movie came out really gravitated to it and really enjoyed it, because it's finally somebody took horror movies. At the time in the mid-90s, wasn't taking it serious.
That's true.
You had like Jack Frost and Dr. Giggles and all that stuff, and you had a lot of silly horror movies, and then you had a horror movie that took it almost a high volume, like legit, like what we appreciate for Hellraiser. So it's almost like, wow, and we're going into outer space, like sci-fi, sure, because we had a lot of sci-fi films at the time. So it's almost like a mixture.
But we didn't have much for sci-fi horror. That's true. It was it was out there. It was out there floating, like the ship itself, because in the 70s we had Alien, and of course Aliens.
Yeah. I mean, even in the 90s, Leprechaun, which I kind of get a chuckle out of, but that was kind of like the horror we were getting from like 93 to 96.
But when you view, there was another film that came out in 2009, I believe, that had a pretty good run called Pandorum, which was also about kind of a vacant ship. We also had kind of horror in Sunshine from Danny Boyle, but that was like late aughts. Yeah, the 90s were kind of that thing where like the shtick of the 80s wasn't hitting as well. Things like Dr. Giggles and Jack Frost and Leprechaun, those movies, like, they weren't hitting the way that they would have hit had they been made with a little bit more care. But then you also had the rebirth of like the slasher genre with Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
And they had something that really was serious, like Dolores Claiborne, which is not, it's a horror movie, but it's not, it's the context of like, oh my God.
This movie was kind of on its own. No one was asking for it.
And then
that doesn't mean it's good.
This is what we wanted.
Yeah, no one was looking for this movie. I don't know if this one would have performed well even if it hadn't been destroyed, just because there was no ask for this movie. I think had it been made 10 years earlier or 10 years later, would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But it floated for too long.
And it just came out at the right time where nobody else was doing something like this, and that's why I think people really enjoyed it. And it's a return of Sam Neill way he get started, and it's kind of catapulted Lawrence Fishburne to be taken serious, because remember, he still can regarded himself as Larry Fishburne in a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. He had kind of a similar trajectory as like Leo, where they both had like he had Quick and the Dead, and we had Event Horizon, 2 movies 2 years before they really hit. You know, Leo was like 2 years away from exploding. He was 2 years away from exploding with The Matrix. Like they were on that cusp, and we're seeing just that promise of like them getting the better roles, them getting the things that they can do something with.
But this is, I mean, it takes place in sci-fi. This is authentic American Catholic Gothic horror.
Yeah,
just like Hellraiser.
It reminds me a little bit of The Church. Mikhail Suavi's
It's a
film.
underrated horror. I love that.
You know, it reminds me a little bit of that too, where it's like this is a place where horror should not be, and yet we are here. You know.
Yeah. Let's kill the demons and bury them in the ground and put a church on top of it, so that if they even try to escape, it's good. I like that idea.
Worked for 20 minutes.
Worked for 20 minutes, right? So.
Yeah, I really wish that, you know, because if you look even at the reviews from the time, I read through about 15, 20 reviews of this film that were in 1997, and all of them just
concentrated on the gore.
Well, there was complaints about the gore, which is funny because it's horror. But
some of it's computerized.
Every single review I read, I didn't read a single one that was missing this. All of them said it feels like there's something missing here. And it's like, there is. Yes. Especially because, you know, 97, of course, I don't think the Scream movies are that bloody. I don't think I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, Valentine, all these slasher movies that came out around the time weren't very bloody. They weren't very gore-tastic. No. These movies were kind of for the masses more. Yeah. Whereas this movie right here, there were complaints during test screenings of excessive gore, of people fainting in their seats, of people leaving the theater. And nowadays, if you had that, they'd be like, movie's perfect, release it.
Right. The reason why they rushed it, because Titanic was taking their time and money, they wanted something for the summer. And I can see the executives like, all right, let's release this for the summer blockbuster. What the heck?
Yeah. Well, and I think there was a funny story I'd read, too, that the producers and executives stopped watching dailies before they shot the gore scenes. So they just watched like the quiet, introspective conversation, like tension building, and then they stopped watching it. So they went to the test screening, and the first test screening was like graphic violence, like graphic nudity, blood orgies, people exploding, and they were like, "Is this the movie?" Like they didn't know because they just stopped watching dailies. So if you're a producer, do your frickin' job, watch the movie daily.
More proof that movie executives are more of like accountants rather than take film class.
I can't imagine there's any executives. If I were at a job where I just decided to not do one of my job functions, I wouldn't be around for very much longer, would I?
Right. They're just bankers, accountants, and not film theorists, like we are.
Yeah.
So, have you seen Event Horizon? I think if you're a horror fan, this is one of those, like, it's a card-carried thing. Like, have you seen it? Yeah, I've seen it. So when you go to a horror convention, it's like almost like I'm sure everybody gets a ticket has seen this movie.
Yeah. I think that if there's going to be a conversation of Pandorum, Event Horizon, Hellraiser, Bloodline. Like, we have to talk about our hell in space films.
It takes place in outer space, but it's still like Hellraiser. It's American Gothic Catholic horror.
Yeah, this is a rarity, too, because I always look at, when people talk about Alien as a horror movie, I've never seen Alien as a horror movie. I will always say I see Alien as a sci-fi movie. In my mind, it's just more sci-fi than horror. This is a sci-fi horror movie where I'm like, this is horror. This is all a horror movie. So, let us know your thoughts down below. What you think about Event Horizon, what you think about Paul W.S. Anderson. Is there another filmography we should be checking out?
But it fits like a cult classic because there's pieces missing there. It fits for those dynamics of a cult classic. Yeah, it's got
I just wish I wish there was more footage so it was a classic instead of a cult classic.
You want to know something really depressing outside the last footage is when Metro Films joined up with Goldwyn and Mayer. Metro Films burned all their silent films. So 1,000 movies that they had in their catalog when they merged to make MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, Metro burned all their films, never seen again. So isn't that depressing?
Well, there's a reason they got purchased up now by Amazon. They were making some dong takes back then, too. So let us know your thoughts on the film and what we should cover next in the realm of horror. Thanks for joining us for Scary Movie Saturdays. You can find Scary Movie Saturdays
you can find the original title of the script. I want to know it.
Yeah, let us know it in the comments section. Give us your thoughts on that and the title, because we couldn't find it. And if you own the new, I believe it's Shout Factory 4K, let us know your thoughts on that release, too. I hear it's pretty nice and well put together. So Yeah, while you're down checking out the comment section, don't forget, like and subscribe. They're 2 things that you can do, don't cost you a dime, and they help support the channel at the same time, and you'll never miss an episode on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays as we have the show. Thank you guys for joining us. You can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, a podcast you can find anywhere on the internet. And even though this is a messy, dirty horror movie, you can watch and go back, and they're pretty clean. They did take the showers.
They did.